So now I am going to trace my front for another front. I'm going to make another front. So here I have my original front that I knock off. I left some extra paper at the center front. I just fold it under, and then I'm going to flip it upside down to trace it. So when I'm done, it'll be one left and one right, okay? So you're going to draw a straight line at the center front area. Same thing, you want to have some extra paper for the placket. And then I'm going to use the ruler to help me to draw a nice straight line. So I'm just lining up to where the fold is, the center front of the fold. Okay. Okay. So you draw a straight line. You're going to put in place. Sometime you can put, if you have a push pin, you can just poke it through and just keep it in place. Okay. Then I'm going to trace the bottom hem. The side seam. The armhole, shoulder, and you should be able to see the front neck. You can take your tracing wheel and trace it over, okay? Or you can wait until we work on one side of the placket and we can trace that over, okay? So now I have the other front. I think some of the lines are a little light. I can fill that in. So I have my right side and my left side. The left side gets the pocket, the right side do not. So now you want to look at the shirt that you are doing the knockoff from. So on my right side, it's just a fold under placket, okay? So you want to measure that. This is 7/8 of an inch. So you're gonna write down 7/8. So later on when we make it, we're gonna remember. And then on the left side, I have a self piece. Is it so? Of a placket, and they're gonna fold. Or you can make a, I think it's self, yeah. It's a self piece, and it's just a folding of the placket. You want to measure the width of that. This is 1 inch. So on this side is 1 inch placket. So you have a 7/8 and a 1 inch on each side. So now we can open this up. We can make a strip of placket, and we're gonna make a separate piece. Your center front gets a 1/4 seam allowance, okay? So you're gonna draw a 1/4 seam allowance at the center front. Okay. Then we are going to measure the width of the placket that we want. So earlier I measured it, it was 1 inch. So I'm gonna have 1 inch placket. I'm gonna draw here. That's my placket. And then we have seam allowance, okay? So we are going to cut this straight at the center front at the seam allowance 1/4. You're gonna cut that straight. Then now you can cut at the neckline. And your neckline, get a 1/4 seam allowance too. A lot of time, depending on the shirt, they have different plackets. So this one we're making a self placket. So now we're gonna take this measurement of the placket plus extra seam allowance for sewing. Okay, I'm gonna put my other front on the side. So you're gonna have to draw in. So for the placket, we have the first part, we get a 1/4 seam allowance. Okay, 1/4. I just use a long strip of paper and to make the placket. And a placket is 1 inch. Then on this side, that seam allowance is going to be half. Okay. So the total, you got 1 3/4. So I'm going to cut my strip to be 1 3/4. So I got my strip of placket. So I'm going to show you how that works. So this is the front of the left side. So this goes right here. And then the way it works is you are going to sew the wrong side and the right side of the placket. And then this gets folded in this way, and this gets then 1/4 in. And then it's going to end up to be on the top. Then you're going to fold this 1/2 inch under like this. So this part is going to be tucked in. Then you are going to top stitch that. So that's how that placket works. So that's the reason how we made that. You got 1/4 for the center front sewing seam allowance, and that 1/2 inch you're going to fold under. Once you fold under, you're going to top stitch 1/4. That's why you need the extra seam allowance. When you top stitch, you want to make sure you're able to catch it. So I made a long strip. I'm gonna line up on the bottom. Make sure they line up and make sure they match. So I'm just, if they're a little bit crooked, make sure you draw a straight line. So I want to make sure I have a straight line here. So here's my bottom. And you're going to take that all the way to the front on the top front. You're going to line flat all the way to the front. And then go all the way up to the neck. Then you're going to get the tracing of the neck. You should be able to see your neckline. You're going to draw that. There should be a kind of a funky curve. So your curve's a little funky. And you're going to cut that. So this is your placket on the left side for the shirt. Okay. So now for your right front, all you have to do is do a folding placket. So what I wrote down earlier is 7/8 of an inch. So I'm going to mark 7/8 of an inch. I'm going to go all the way to the top where the neck is. Then I'm going to draw another 1/2 inch in. That's a seam allowance for the folding. So this is a 1-piece placket on the right side. So on the bottom, I'm just going to square a straight line. On the neck, on the top part, you're going to take your left front, lay on top of it. Okay, and you are going to get the tracing. Make sure you line up very straight. You're going to get the tracing of the neckline. So I got the neck tracing, and then to get the shape of this right here, the extension part, we are going to fold that to the inside. And then we're going to trace the curve of the front neck right here, right in the front, to get the shaping that you're looking for. And this goes up curve like this, okay? And then you're gonna notch here, you're gonna notch there. I will talk about notching afterward. You can cut it out and draw in the seam allowance, or you can draw in the seam allowance and cut it out afterward. Because on the pattern that you trace, this pattern here already have seam allowance, so you are going to draw in. So we want both of the pattern match up the same way, so we're going to draw it in. The shoulder is 1/2 inch, so you can take this, look at your left pattern to make sure the seam allowance are the same. Draw it in the same way, and then you're going to cut it out. So you should have your left front and a right front for this pattern right here.